Hey, everybody. This is episode 2 of Behind the Counter. I'm Rich Stambolian, and this is my illustrious co-host,
Bravo.
Jonathan Adler.
Bravo.
How you doing today?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I actually caught the, last week I had some problems with Time Warner Cable. I actually caught the Superheroes documentary that was from HBO.
And what do you think about that?
This is a piece of work.
It is.
Right here. It really is. I mean, it's so magnificent in its own little way that it warranted a second topic of discussion on this week's show. Now, I personally, if you guys didn't see this thing, check it out. It's called Superheroes, and it follows the adventures of these real-life superheroes based around the country.
Adventure is such a strong word.
Well, non-adventures, maybe? Stuff these guys try to do.
Stuff they're doing before they die.
I remember I was texting you as I was watching it last week, and you were like, the one after like a bunch of texts I sent you, you were like, everybody should be locked up.
They should be. They are borderline criminals.
A lot of them are. I mean, you know, Master Legend is by far my favorite dude, especially when he punches the refrigerator.
Absolutely.
After cracking a beer.
And putting the pipe on his hand.
And he put the pipe on his hand.
As a weapon.
Pipe. What did he say? He got a little threatening, too, at the end there. He was like, and don't make me come a-knocking.
I thought he was going to attack the producers.
Yeah, I don't want that guy knocking on any doors of mine.
No.
Terrible, terrible. Like, they all, like I said last week, it's just they are the lowest common denominator. But it's so enjoyable watching these train wrecks of a human being.
It really is. It's very enjoyable. I mean, they do good things. You know, they give food to the homeless. Master Legend actually has his own not-for-profit organization, which is
astonishing.
Awesome.
But that's astonishing that man can run any type of non-profit organization.
It's astonishing that man can wake up in the mornings and walk.
I'm surprised he's actually taking in breath as a human being during his regular course of his day.
He was the cool dude, man. Like, every 2 minutes, he's like, you work up a mighty thirst being a man. Not even being a superhero.
No, just being an alcoholic.
Just being a man.
Just being an alcoholic.
And at one point in the documentary, he's like, excuse me, fellas. And he tells the documentary fellow crew, they follow him into the bar. He orders a beer. While he's ordering the beer, he's kicking it to this chick at the bar who just doesn't really care. And he's just like, oh, I'm a superhero. He's like, you got a business card? And he's like, no.
Of course he doesn't have a business card. This guy's operating out of his van and his basement apartment.
I don't have any at the moment, per se.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money this week to print out copies of my business card. I'm sorry.
Staples was closed the other night.
That guy does not go to Staples. He's going to Kinko's.
You think?
Yeah, he's going to Kinko's.
He's getting the printer friendly, the Vistaprint, the free Vistaprint cards. They say Vistaprint on the back. It's a fantastic show. It's a fantastic documentary. And then like the thing that really made me uncomfortable was surprisingly not Mr. Extreme. You know, because you kind of feel bad for him, and you know he's out there really doing his thing.
He's
like,
a little slow.
He's a little slow, and the cops are just like, I hope he doesn't hurt himself. And he really wants to do good. And he teamed up with that guy, what's it, Spider Vigilante or something?
Vigilante Spider.
The Vigilante
Spider.
Spider Vigilante. Who looks like he just got beat up a bunch.
He does. He looks like a used up sock.
Yeah. That's just the costume. That's the costume thing.
He looks like you've stuffed other socks inside of one big sock.
Well, how about those renegade teenagers?
The Brooklyn kids?
Yeah.
You know what? My take on that is that because they intro them with saying, you know, we moved to Brooklyn to stop crime. If they moved to Brooklyn 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, sure. But I don't think they'd be stopping crime.
They're in Williamsburg.
All they're doing is
victims
of crime.
Yeah, all they're doing is walking around telling people to go back into the bars with their open containers.
Yeah.
That's the extent of their vigilantism.
Those 4 people made me really uncomfortable because it's Zimmer, the athlete, 2 guys in crazy mushroom head masks, and the chick who, like, they don't show his face, but they send her out on patrol, you know? And like you said last week, they have like like they all went through trauma. What really made me uncomfortable is when they're talking to one of the guys on the roof. I think his name was Z, and he was like, you know, sometimes I take it too far with these guys.
I don't want to know what that means.
Yeah.
He's on the verge of becoming a villain.
I don't know what that means.
You can't.
I wonder if he has that happening in his head. Like, does he go into character and think he's a villain?
Like he could be turning into a villain at the moment.
I have to tell you, they are not great superheroes, but they are an awesome Slipknot cover band.
Oh, hell yeah.
The best.
They are the best Slipknot cover band.
Those are the dudes that play new metal with their basses slapping.
The craziest thing about those dudes are the fact that they were doing the gay baiting.
Oh,
my God. They're driving around. Like, they had this segment where they show that
Bait Patrol,
where they have, like, one of the guys, Zimmer, is he's gay, so he's like, you know, we're trying to stop hate crime, so he dresses up like a really, really, like, obnoxious, like,
stereotypical
gay guy who stands around, and he has these other two big dudes riding around on skateboards.
The long skateboards. Too.
Waiting for people to come and pick on them, and then they'll beat the crap out of them. That's not being a superhero. No. That's being some weirdos on skateboards beating the crap out of people by inciting hate crimes.
They didn't catch anybody on patrol, but they saved a guy whose foot got run over, which was kind of cool because like the gay guys, Zimmer's an EMT, which is like very commendable.
I'm an EMT. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, And
no, he was taking a course. He wasn't even done with the course yet for being an EMT.
That's right.
He was like, I'm almost done with my course. The worst part of it is like the fact of this gay baiting thing. That's like like Wolverine going out into the streets and saying like this, "Hey, bub, pick up that $1." It's like you're a thief, and he stabs him. Yeah, that's just as bad as what they do.
What'd you say about Canadians? It's weird. Like the
Phil's gonna run into him.
I think so. they're gonna look for us. The thing that strikes me as kind of odd about it is that it's great that you want to be a superhero and help people, but think about it this way: superheroes are made up. They're fantasy, and when you write a heroic character that somebody's supposed to look up to, they don't get cranky. The human condition doesn't take over with like Spider-Man, where he's like, I'm not gonna go on patrol. This guy pissed me off today. I'm gonna just stay home and play Xbox and see how far I can get in like Galaga or something. And and you can't put the human condition and the superhero condition on the same level of existence.
But what kind of superheroes were they? Like the Slipknot cover band? Like I have never seen any kind of superhero that looks like that.
Because it's what's
the vigilante spider. Okay, you know what?
He
gets points because you know what? He saw a superhero and said, "I can make this out of my bed sheets." Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
and
what
he
I
put
said.
It together.
That's what I was talking about last week. Is that it's like all these people obviously read comic books. It's like they have no idea what a superhero looks like, and you can fabricate a costume. You can fabricate something that looks somewhat like a superhero. Like Master Legend does not look like a superhero. He looks like a guy in Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all look like they've all like really like gone through the ringer, especially their costumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like the Brooklyn guys look like they actually make their own stuff. Like they might be like artisans or something. And
well,
like
Zimmerman didn't even wear a costume. He was a dude wearing a parkour costume and like no mask.
And he couldn't do that flip in the beginning too.
He couldn't do the flip.
He was trying to like run down the alleyway and he couldn't do the flip and he fell.
Well, how about the people that there were these other people that they interviewed for like 2 seconds and they didn't get anything, like that older woman that was walking around with like the size.
Oh yeah.
And then the gardener asked her like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm a superhero."
All right, lady.
Right on.
Yeah.
Don't step on the grass.
And I was like, "What's her story though? How come we didn't hear it?"
There's only so much time of the day.
There is, and it's an hour documentary. You got to squeeze in all this footage, and plus, like, if you look on YouTube, there's hundreds of these guys everywhere, and there's one crazy looking dude, Mr. Justice, Phoenix Justice Phoenix.
Oh, the Phoenix Jones or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, he's one of the bigger ones. He's got a huge amount of notoriety.
Yeah, and he's got
this
like
world.
a Spawn costume.
Yeah, he does. A lot of them fall back in the Spawn costume. A lot of people grab that same type of mask and that same type of look and just like, I'm going to put spikes on my costume.
McFarlane. That's it. Just like instead of like a bat crashing through the window like Batman, it's Todd McFarlane's head. Oh, I know it'll strike fear into the criminal's hearts.
An artist.
Yeah. Jess isn't into comic books, but like she sat there and watched this entire thing and was like, wow, they're all mentally ill.
Oh, absolutely.
And all I could think of is, I want to do this.
No, don't do it.
No, you don't. Maybe in a waking dream when you have a
running around the streets of Bayside.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
That'd be a horrible idea.
3 a.m. on Bell, man. I'm sure you'll find some action at some point in front of something. You wanted to say the Stan Lee bit, which was hysterical.
Oh, God, it was so weird. Like my favorite part of the whole thing is they just cut into Stan Lee talking on the phone, and he's like, God, the Stan Lee voice. He's like, we have to, you look at the woman with the legs, and they're always running around with the stiletto heels. And, it complements the female form of the leg. So I'm thinking, with all the arguments towards it, can we put them in, like, wedges? You know what a wedge is? And it's insane. It's like the crazy thing. And the dude's obviously talking about Stripperella, which is the weirdest thing to be working on for like the last 20 years. As long as I've been alive and reading comic books, I've been reading about friggin' Stripperella and Stan Lee.
Yeah. He loves it.
He wants to do it so bad.
I think I was telling him outside, and I think before Jack Kirby died, they had a secret meeting, on his deathbed, and he handed like just a pitch sheet to Stan Lee and was like, "I'm gonna curse you forever, Stan. This is your future.
You're gonna make garbage, but you make a lot of money. A lot of money.
I'm kidding about the money."
He makes a lot of money, man.
By the way, people want you to talk as Stan Lee for the rest of the show.
I can't do it. It comes in and out.
Excelsior.
Excelsior. I can't do it anymore.
I wish they just had a bit of him screaming Excelsior at the top of his lungs.
Oh my God. He's always surrounded by strippers too. Every
He
time
is.
he's at a Comic-Con or anything, he's always surrounded by beautiful women.
He's like the hef of the comic scene.
Yeah, and his body parts don't work anymore at all either. They're just dead.
He'll outlive
Dangling.
everybody, man.
Stan Lee or Hef?
Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Hef, I don't know about Hef, but Stan Lee definitely, man. That guy's gonna live to be 1,000.
Yeah.
And he'll still be working on Stripperella. All right, we got some news coming up for you. Little upcoming stuff, upcoming projects. We always concentrate. We've been concentrating a lot on the two big books, but Image is putting out this book on September, which is about September 11th, called The Big Lie, which is from Rick Veitch and Gary Erskine. I kind of dig this project because it's a new take on it. It's great. They came out with the commemorative September 11th stuff when it came out. It's a horrible tragedy for the whole nation, and a lot of them were just really meant to kind of boost your morale, which is amazing, which is what people need. But this story is, it takes place in the present, I believe, and somebody goes back to Tower 1 to talk to their husband and tries to convince them to vacate the tower. So the whole book is basically this lady trying to convince her husband to leave on that terrible day, and the implications that have. And it's kind of like a realistic sort of story set, in these times with the time travel, obviously, and there's something about the Hadron Collider. I personally think it's like a catharsis for Rick Veitch, because we're approaching the 10th anniversary, and this is something he may have wanted to come out with for a while. And I think Gary Erskine is the perfect artist to do it, because honestly, I love Gary Erskine's art. Gary Erskine is one of those artists that when you see his stuff, always makes me very uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always very, very visceral and very, very the filth is just disgusting.
Yeah.
You get he does some of the best facial expressions out there. So if this is a book about emotion, you're definitely going to get that out of this book.
Yeah, Veitch will. Erskine will definitely. It looks like he cranked up his art for it too. And the stuff that he, even the regular superhero stuff that Erskine has done in the past. When you look at the faces that he draws, it's just Reed Richards looks disgusting.
Absolutely, and the 12 when he was working on it was great. You get to see these really borderline theater of the grotesque type faces and body type. And he's a tremendous artist who does great action scenes too.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be a great book. I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of them both. This is not the first time he's worked on 9/11 books. And it's it's a hard subject to constantly return to, but I think it's gonna be something special.
I have a question about that. For me, it's still a soft spot. And for many New Yorkers, it is.
Oh, absolutely.
And I couldn't watch the movie.
Right.
The flight.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I'm the same way. I couldn't do that.
I can't watch any I could watch the news, but I can't watch any kind of, because it's so still it's an open wound. As a comic book reader, when you read something involving that, do you get the same vibe, or are you able to disconnect it and say, okay, this is in this alternate world?
I think as a reader, you can disconnect it. They did something not similar, but in the first issue of Ex Machina that came out a very long time ago, they had the Great Machine, who was the character in the book, save the second tower, and that was the reveal, and that's what got the character elected to becoming mayor, because he was a great hero. I think there's a degree of separation between reality and fantasy.
But also, you also have to deal with the fact that, if you're reading a superhero book, you're dealing with, mass tragedy all the time. Yeah. Dr. Doom will blow up a stadium at some point. A giant wave will come and crash and destroy half of New York City. Right. So it's always hard to read something in the world of fiction, especially in what we're doing here and we're talking about, for it to be believable and still be heartfelt and still have an impact. Right. But it's something it's this dark area that I don't think a lot of people are terribly comfortable either writing about or reading about.
Yeah, and Veitch will probably nail it, because he's one of those. He's like a writer's writer.
Absolutely.
The work that this guy does that conveys this emotions that he has. And like I said, I really think it's some kind of personal catharsis for him, and for whoever for Image, and for whoever put out the book, just to kind of bring a little more attention to it and kind of do something a little different, and it addresses some of the what ifs. Next up on the docket, we have DC this week release, and this is not the negative zone, but it will be a little negative.
Not the negative zone. Not the negative zone.
DC released a trailer for their new 52 project.
Very new metal.
Very new metal. Very it's like they got the bottled Rage Against the Machine music.
Yeah, man. It's I don't know who they were really pitching this towards. And also, it just seems like such outsourced work. Like, here's a bunch of preview pages. Let's animate them, put some music to it, and it's promoting this soon-to-be new regime within DC. So it's supposed to get you excited about this new starting from scratch. Seeing a young Superman, a young Batman. You don't get any of that in this trailer.
No, it's like a bad advertisement for one of those comics on CD.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were advertising for a comic book store that just opened up with no money, and they made a quick thing where they just photographed a bunch of pictures of some comics and then just put them on a commercial.
Yeah, I mean, that's something for me as a fan that and as an adult fan too, where you kind of know that there are these giant companies putting out this stuff, and they're supposed to be. At least I would hope so, some production value behind it. You're working at DC. You have some of the most brilliant minds on Earth right now making comics, and you can't find an intern to at least make it entertaining.
It's every single time they do something like this where they have here's a big new event. Here's World War Hulk, and we're gonna make an animated trailer for it. It's always crap. It's always such really, really disappointing, weird, uncomfortable footage of slightly animated comic book images.
Yeah. And
it's weird looking.
It detracts. I think it detracts a little bit from what they're trying to do with the relaunch. You know? And again, with the production value, they also released some pictures from the new Spider-Man movie, which I like. I saw the trailer.
Pretty nice.
And I like the outfit and everything, but the pictures they released, like him on the black background, it just looks like it was some fan film.
I like it.
Yeah.
I know I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I kind of like the sparseness of it, but I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I want to see some cool Spider-Man stuff. I don't want to see him jumping up. It looks like a Comic-Con picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like they found a black corner and they were like, hey,
stay in front of the bathroom real quick and just pose like an idiot.
Yeah.
Can you put your hands between your legs?
Because that one shot it looks like it's him just crouching and thinking.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good. I was a little against. I'm like, I kind of like the storyline, but they destroyed the third one so bad where they needed to do this. There was no coming back from the musical.
I think a lot of people are kind of just kind of raw with comic books right now. Well, I mean, with Spider-Man, I'm sorry. Just in general, just they feel like they've been trying to cheat it. Just exactly what you're saying, Andrew, about Spider-Man 3 and the musical. It's just we have a bad taste in our mouth. So, and also the trailer left a lot of people feeling it was going to be too dark.
I think Emma Stone will be a good Gwen Stacy.
I think she'd be great.
She got the giant eyes.
Yeah,
I think she's gonna be awesome.
And much better than Snaggletooth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think Garfield's gonna be a great Spider-Man too. I'm looking forward to it. I'm behind it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come out that hair is actually a wig.
His hair?
His hair.
Oh, I'm looking at it. Oh my God!
It's always the same. Like from what was he in the Social Network?
The Social Network.
Yeah. It just looks like he has that. I mean, God bless him if that's his real hair. That's amazing. He's like the next Walken.
Yeah, he would be a weird Walken.
Yeah, like in the future, give him another 20 years, and people.
But he does have the Peter Parker thing.
He looks like Peter Parker.
Yeah, he does.
Absolutely.
I think the casting for this movie is great. What's his name? Dan Leary as Captain Stacy.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think what's his name as the Lizard. British gentleman.
I have it here.
Reese Fans? Is I'm saying it right? Guy from Notting Hill.
Yeah.
You've seen Notting Hill.
Reese Ifans. Yeah.
Yeah. He was great, and he got thrown out of Comic-Con for being drunk. So, respect.
Martin Sheen is Ben Parker. Martin Sheen is Ben Parker.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's really, really
and
cool.
you know what? I'm looking at a picture of him.
Sally Field.
Yeah. Looks good.
You have Sally Field.
Martin Sheen is always a believable old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always believable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. She's Aunt May.
And the best president also was Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
next to Harrison Ford.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman was an amazing.
Harrison Ford is my favorite president.
Yeah.
Stan Lee is listed in the IMDb.
Of course he is.
Stan the man.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Yeah. He was in every movie except for
every movie. I think he was in every movie.
Yeah. I think he was in one.
He was in Thor.
Yeah.
He was in Captain America.
Yeah.
He just wasn't in the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
No, you know what? He wasn't one of the. I think he was
the last one.
I don't think the last one. I don't think he was in First Class.
Yeah.
But he's been steady, especially with the Marvel production studios. He's been steady in that.
Yeah. My favorite cameo of his is Willie Lumpkin. by far.
William Lupkin was good. Him playing Larry King was awesome too.
Yes,
That was really
about
surprising and good.
it was excellent. All right, man. Marvel, some more Marvel stuff.
Always Marvel.
Yeah,
all the time.
It's so hard.
Pick up your
not
game,
to talk
DC.
About it, man. That was like we have like maybe another. No, that's it. We don't have any more DC stuff, man. It's Marvel, man.
It'll pick up once 52 launches. Once
Yeah.
we get out of this like quagmire of like them like ending their old books and starting their new books. It's gonna get better,
Yeah.
and there's gonna be more stuff to talk about. But right now, it's just like there's too much going on in Marvel not to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have Nightcrawler joining one of the X teams. Not our Nightcrawler. No, not our Nightcrawler.
Not our
Not
Nightcrawler.
my
not
Nightcrawler.
Not my Nightcrawler.
Not regular continuity Nightcrawler, but Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler.
Which is a cool Nightcrawler. He's a little bit more hard edged. He's a cool character, and the fact that he's joining X Force, which is a group of murderers, it's going to be a more interesting book.
Yeah.
This whole week they've been really teasing. Almost every single day they've been putting out. There's a storyline going on called Schism, where the X-Men are kind of the two leaders, Cyclops and Wolverine, are kind of be splitting in ideologies, and you don't know really what's going to happen. But they're kind of go back to like the gold and blue teams. So
Yeah.
you have Wolverine kind of leading one faction and Cyclops leading the other faction. So you get these silhouetted pictures of new characters and what these teams are going to be comprising of. So you've had Nightcrawler, you've had Evan Frost, they just had Cyclops show up. They had Sebastian show up from the Hellfire Club, which is a weird choice to put into a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a big thing right now where you really need to start like if you like Marvel comics, you have to really start returning to X-Men because they're really working on a cohesive world again. Where it's always been weird that the X-Men don't associate more with the Avengers and seeing more of a cohesive world in it.
But is that because of the universe that the X-Men are in compared to the rest of Marvel?
I don't think so.
Like the whole mutant thing and the anti-mutant thing.
I don't think so. I think it's a big part of it is really they used to think like when the X-Men were kind of the young kids. They were always like the teenagers of like the Marvel universe. So you had the Avengers were like the old folks. And there was a weird divide because the Avengers was kind of a mess, the X-Men were kind of a mess, and they took their time to build up the two worlds. But it's not that thing anymore. Like these are guys in costumes and guys in costumes. Hang out, do stuff together. You get a bomb going off, you should all take care of the bomb.
Yeah, but like the thing with that the separation of them is because, and I think Schism does a great job of bringing this back to the forefront, is the fact that a lot of the X-Men stuff, 90% of the X-Men stuff is essentially about racism.
Yes.
So instead of like, hey, great Galactus is coming or so-and-so is showing up, listen, people are trying to kill us left and right. We gotta take care of these guys. Like in the first issue of Schism, which is an excellent X-Men book. If you have not picked up X-Men books in any number of years, pick up Schism. You'll really enjoy it. You really don't need a lot of backstory to it. And they give you a lot of nods if you're a fan as well. Quentin Quire, Grant Morrison character, shows up. They're doing some cool stuff with him. In the first issue, they go to the Arms Summit, and Cyclops basically says, you guys have Sentinels. There's Sentinels out there. Do not deny it. I've been getting hunted down by these things since I was 16 years old.
No robots. No robots. No robots at all. We don't have giant robots.
No robots. And they show the different countries who have really horrible Sentinel technology, and they all end
Which
up
is
falling
awesome.
apart. Yeah.
It's so awesome that they've even used the same technology for these giant robots for years. It hasn't changed.
And they bought like black market Sentinels that just essentially.
I want to buy a black market Sentinel.
Would you?
I would.
I'd want to get the Sentinel from that. It was like the Marvel Kids book, the Sentinel book. Where the
hell yeah.
The kid finds a Sentinel in the
He's
forest.
come back.
Yeah?
He's coming back in Avengers Academy. He's a great character.
Awesome. It
And
really
he was in that future X-Men storyline for Morrison
Yes.
when he was growing up and he was like a badass.
He was a bad dude. That's a really cool story. I think it was just called Sentinel too. It was like about a kid who finds a Sentinel and on his property and kind of like nurses it back to health, and he becomes like a friendly robot with the kid. Marvel's been doing a bang up job with all this stuff, and the silhouette thing that they've been doing is kind of interesting because it's not at the point where it's frustrating anybody, because they'll throw out the silhouette of like the main guy on the cover, and then you don't know who's behind him.
Right.
And then in the next coming weeks, they'll kind of start revealing who the silhouettes are, and then the creators come out and they'll talk about it, at length as to why and how.
That's a good part of it, that they actually do let the creators actually go into length about the projects they're working on, and you get a more passionate thing than saying, an executive saying a line about, like today, they're talking about a lot of Fear Itself, aftermath stuff.
Right.
So one of the things is Shattered Heroes. So they've been doing like little teasers where they have like a starry background and they have like, the world will never be the same.
Right.
But then they also have like a broken Thor's hammer today.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote under it was an executive, a CEO of Marvel saying like, the Avengers will never be the same. I don't want to hear it from this guy.
No.
I don't want to hear. I want to hear a creator. I don't want to hear the suit telling me like you should buy that hamburger.
Thor is one of our characters. Keep that in mind.
He's a branded character. Come often. Buy more Thor stuff.
Yeah, and you have the Shattered Heroes, Scattered Heroes, whatever it's called, Shattered Heroes. It looks awesome because they did that first teaser shot where it's a broken down Tony Stark walking away from a team of heroes, and you don't really like. Some of them are shaded, some of them are not. Tyrannus is in the background.
Yeah, the new Thor is there. A vampire. They just added another like shadowy figure into the same image. They've been changing this image over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a vampire.
No thanks. Vampires. That's the other thing that they're kind of leading into. Last week we touched a little bit on Hulk fighting Dracula, which has kind of spilled over into this new project called The Forgiven, which leads us into the negative zone.
The negative zone.
They did it. We don't need an effect.
You got voices.
We're gonna have a
little.
Well, we said we wanted to
thing.
be like the guy that was like touched inappropriately with the black screen. Is like,
Yes.
The negative zone. The negative zone.
I've always been damaged.
So anyway,
So we need a clock.
it's 3 minutes on the clock, Andrew, if you don't mind.
And please stop us at 3 minutes.
All right,
Yeah.
let's start now.
All right,
Now.
so right now we have a lot of weird stuff happening with X-Men for the last like a few months with vampires coming into the forefront. They made Jubilee, who was depowered into a vampire. I don't know what you're showing.
That's the Twilight picture.
So this is like the vampire that is of the new generation. This is not something that I don't feel is appealing. Let's show them what a vampire should look like. You have a good one?
I do have a good one. One of the coolest vampires, actually. Especially, in comic books, it's very hard to have a cool vampire. It's hard to have a cool vampire anywhere. I'm sick of vampires. I'm sick of vampires in comic books. I'm sick of vampires in general, man. The coolest comic book vampire, Cassidy from Preacher.
The best.
By far.
Because he was a human, and he was flawed. He was a tough dude. He was a stripped-down, cool version of what makes a vampire cool. I've never been a fan of vampires. I like Dracula, and that's it.
I like Nosferatu.
I like Nosferatu. I like the gross vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the scary vampire. That thing with the two people, the Twilight people, that should not be the representation of what a vampire is. And I definitely don't want to see it in my X-Men comic.
No, not at all. And, you have... I didn't read any of the X-Men stuff as soon as I heard that it was like, everybody's going to turn into a vampire. And it was like that one cover of Wolverine...
He's a vampire.
With vampire.
He's a vampire. They make Wolverine
fangs.
into a vampire bad guy for like 3 issues, and it's terrible.
So apparently, like one of the byproducts of I'll call it a byproduct. I feel like it's more like Dan DeVito from Twins, where he looks at, he's like, I'm the shit.
That's the shit.
That's the
shit.
It's the Forgiven, which is a team of vampires. It's stemming off the Fear Itself storyline, and I don't know who any of these dudes are.
You shouldn't know who these guys are. I think you're better pressed for not knowing what they are. I actually read the prequel to Hulk vs. Dracula today. Tomb of Dracula presents Throne of Blood, which is basically like Shogun meets Dracula, and it's awful. And it's all the same dude, Victor Grishler. The guy's right in X-Men. He's infused fully X-Men and vampires.
Well, he's Austrian.
Is he?
Yeah,
That's
He's
why.
An Austrian writer. He's a crime writer. He's like an Austrian crime writer, and
He wrote vampire books also, too.
Yeah. So this guy loves vampires, and they updated the classic Tomb of Dracula vampire. I think it's the same Dracula.
It is.
And they
It's
gave
the
him
same
some
guy.
weird, like they gave him some pseudo Gary Oldman Dracula armor with like really long hair, so he kind of looks like a vampire Sephiroth.
Yeah, he's just like a
know?
guy with long white hair and a red suit of armor.
I'd much rather have honestly take all the vampires out of the Marvel universe, leave Blade. I always like Blade. 2 is one of my favorite movies. I know you know.
I like the Blade movies. That's about it.
Blade 2 is an excellent movie.
Not a
Keep
fan of
them
Blade.
out, man. Even when they did the ultimate vampire stuff, which I actually kind of liked, that was a big guilty pleasure of mine, where they infected all the heroes with vampirism. But they wrapped it up because everybody died except for Blade at the end.
It was so ridiculous.
And the coolest vampire.
Vampires. Go ahead.
Sick and tired of vampires. This is an anti-vampire speech right now. And anyway, Anne Rice screwed it up for everybody.
There's our vampire. That's the
By
vampire
far
we
the
want.
Coolest vampire.
That's the
on
vampire we
Earth.
want. fuck vampires.
Excellent.
Suck my shit.
That's it.
How about zombies though? No,
Zombies are fine.
Zombies are great.
Zombies are okay in my book.
I think it's gotten a little played out though.
There's a lot of milking of
Yeah.
the zombie franchise.
A lot of milking of zombies.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Inherently, I'll always be drawn to the zombie storylines. But yeah, it is a bit much. It is a bit much. But they're all good stuff. All the zombie stuff I've seen and read has been amazing.
I could not ask for a better segue, because we're going to do the books of the week, starting with Walking Dead.
Good.
The most phenomenal zombie book ever created.
I think the most phenomenal zombie story, period. Next to World War Z by Max Brooks, this is
World War Z was excellent.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
Mel Brooks' kid.
incredible story. Mel Brooks' kid. The great thing about Walking Dead is it is a book about complete and utter misery. Like, you can't ask for a better protagonist who is completely and unbelievably miserable. This man breaks down crying at the end of the storyline.
Constantly.
This dude, and the fact that, like, you read about Rick, and the fact that he's like, I don't understand how people are still able to follow this man. This man talks on a corded phone to his dead wife.
But nobody knows that.
But
That's
he's
the thing.
crazy. But
Yeah.
but he shouldn't be making decisions at this point. He's a great guy to get behind when you need to smash zombies' heads in. But he is a sick man.
In this storyline, they're in a gated community essentially that they're rebuilding, and Rick is the default leader now because they had a big zombie invasion, and it was thanks to him that everybody survived. You know, but in this issue, you also have a recovering Carl. Carl is Rick's son. He gets half of his face blown off.
Shot in the face.
Yeah, this kid, he's like a 9-year-old kid. He gets shot in the face. He gets half his face blown off, and he's in a coma. He lives. So for the past couple of issues, he's been in a coma. He wakes up in this one and asks for. Well, actually, he woke up in the last one, and this one he's asking for his mother. And Rick basically has to suck it up and say, "Your mom's dead."
Your mom's dead and your sister's dead. Oh, you didn't even know your sister, but she's dead too.
Yeah, and then as soon as that scene happens, he walks out of the house and goes, "I got to go on a run. I got to go on a food run." So he essentially has to get as far away from his son as possible, who's recovering from getting shot in the face. And it's a noble thing because he's trying to help everybody, but at the same time, it shows you how messed up this guy is in the head at this point. And it kind of wraps up with a few of the people in the community kind of want to gang up on Rick and take his spot a little bit, and I think it's going to lead into a whole. You can sense something gigantic is over the horizon.
I think it's really coming down to the whole aspect of questioning his leadership.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a great dude to have around and the guy you want on your side, but I don't think he's the person that should be leading these people. Like, Abraham is a better character to lead them together.
Right.
But I think they're really showing, like, this dude is a disaster.
They're going to lead up to something gigantic with this. Like you said, Abraham, he's like the badass construction worker, and you have Andrea too, who went from...
She's a great character.
Yeah, who went from like the housewife to this incredible sniper.
Yeah.
And she's a bad chick.
Who screws old men.
That's true. It's just Dale. Yeah, and Dale dies. But Kirkman, you're up to issue 88. Kirkman is penned at all the issues. There's never been any filler. He's going to take this as far as it can go. I would be happy if this book went on for another 100+ issues.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It could be the eternal book.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because you if you think about it, the map of the Walking Dead world, they really haven't gone that far.
No, they're on foot, and they've had to deal with seasons and winter and starvation. And, like, what's great about it is, like, I still love the fact that, like, at the Hunter storyline, how these dudes will eat you if it comes down to it. Like, these are humans, like, brought to the brink. And that's, like, I can't wait for everyone to watch a show and see where it goes. Because it really is a story about, like, the absolute bottom of humanity.
It's such a visceral story, too.
Yeah.
Especially on I remember watching the series when it debuted last year, and the amount of gore and stuff that they got away with was tremendous.
It is. I'm still shocked by that.
Not watered down at all.
Not at all.
Next book up, again, we've been kind of, I guess this is like kind of our default book that we've been covering. Every issue, I was almost trying to find something about this issue not to cover, but then it was the last 2 pages of Ultimate Fallout number 6, which
I'm glad we don't have to talk about this anymore.
really grabbed me. Nick Fury crying.
Yeah, it was good. It was saying that basically Spider-Man's death was pretty much his fault, and that he really cared for the kid and he loved him and he's known him since he was a little baby. But yeah, seeing like Nick Fury cry, this made me think about. I really like. I'm kind of sad nowadays. Not so much that Nick Fury's crying, is that I miss the fact that we don't have a movie version of like old school Nick Fury.
Yeah.
It's kind of disheartening.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
It's cool.
If Avengers takes off or whatever, they can do it. I think it would be awesome if they did it. But the odds are not in our favor.
No.
My pick for a movie, Nick Fury, Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Brad Pitt, right. After Inglourious Bastards?
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I want a more
Okay.
grizzled dude.
Yeah?
I want a dude with like some character in his face.
Clive Owen.
No. No. Come back to me about Nick Fury. I thought about this for a while. And I don't remember who I picked out.
Come at me, chat room. Nick Fury.
Come at me, chat room.
Who do you want to be, Nick Fury? All right, next book on the docket. If you're reading Fear itself and a little of the tie-ins, and you're, it's all Asgardian stuff, and you're wondering where Loki is,
There he is.
He
There he
in
is.
Journey into Mystery. Now, Journey into Mystery took over for the Thor book. It was the Mighty Thor, and they went back to this is the Thor numbering.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so you had the original Journey into Mystery going into Thor, and now Thor going back into Journey into Mystery. And this book pretty much is centralized on a young resurrected Loki. It's Loki that's not evil, yet he is still the god of mischief, and he's just kind of he's like the Dennis the Menace of the Marvel universe. At this point,
it's great because he's still like smart, conniving Loki, but he's not doing it with intention of evil. He's still a young kid, and it's great because you're reading almost like an evil genius.
Yeah.
And he has a bird that he contained his old self in, called Eichel, which is Loki spelled backwards, which is basically like the exact opposite of having a conscience.
Right.
He basically has his bird reminding him always what he can be if he turned evil again.
Yeah. Or like he's doing stuff that's not evil enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And little interesting thing too is he's kind of has like a relationship with Hela, who's the goddess of the Asgardian hell. Hela's daughter, whose name is Leia, which is also a jumbled up version of her name. And it's Loki kind of trying to save the day and trying to save his brother. This version of Loki actually really likes having his brother around.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the best books I've read about Asgard in years. It's a really, really different take, and very human take on like these Asgardian gods.
Kieron Gillen and Doug Braithwaithe.
Killing it.
Braithwaithe did Earth X and
Killing it.
A ton of other Marvel books. Gillen is awesome, man. He's really taking this book to the next level.
And I love the art. I love Braithwaithe.
Yeah, he draws like a really kind of like you can see why they teamed him up with Alex Ross
Absolutely.
all those years ago and everything. And his art is so fantastic.
Awesome.
It's such a pencily, kind of washed out art. Next book on the docket is Daredevil #2 from Mark Waid,
Awesome book.
Paulo Rivera.
I've talked about this at length. I love this book. I really am so excited for this book. I love Daredevil. I'm used to old misery Daredevil and seeing like a dude having a nervous breakdown at all times. You have a happier Daredevil who is like kind of turning a new page in his life. Yep. And the art is astonishing in this book.
It really is. It really is. You, like you said, you went from this miserable Daredevil, like the real Daredevil, the real life Daredevil, I should say.
Yeah.
And then this was the breath of fresh air that the character needed, with Mark Waid writing not like a happy-go-lucky Daredevil, he still has problems and everything, but he's a Daredevil that's more at peace with himself.
Absolutely. And that's I think it's a breath of fresh air. Like I know that they'll eventually go back to this guy on the verge of a nervous breakdown again, but like the product that Daredevil is right now, the art is pretty much like the stuff that wins people Eisner Awards. And it goes in a totally different direction. The fact that like they do so much with his radar and the way it looks, like the radar of his ability and his power is so awesome looking. And then the reveal at the end of injecting old school Claw into this as a sound enemy against his blind guy is genius. And it's so cool and so stripped down.
Who's the perfect enemy for Daredevil to have? Because he stumbles into a factory and he can't see anything, but he can kind of hear. He can't really.
It's like seeing a ghost.
Going on,
it's like seeing a ghost for him almost.
So you have all these hard sound versions of Claw, who's like an old Kirby villain, who he has like a radar dish.
It's my favorite character
for a hand. And, he's like a sound villain. And the issue's essentially Daredevil being knocked out by these sound constructs and him ending up in some kind of like electric chair, which is very Kirby-esque. Like Rivera did an excellent job of like bringing out like a lot of cool kind of like Jack Kirby stuff with the wires and, like the...
This could be my favorite book this week. I mean, it was just beautiful. It was really, really nice. And like the image of like seeing Claw, like the way that he's completely composed of sound and... It's almost like he's unfurling. Like he's made of like a flat paper, and his whole body is these misconstructed pieces of paper almost.
Right.
It's gorgeous looking.
It's a beautiful book, and plus you have a little, you have a kind of like a little psychological twist to it, also, going along the lines with the more centered Daredevil. He has a little fight with Captain America. You know? And he essentially says, "Look, I understand what you're going through. You feel guilty for your sidekick dying again. You know, let's try to be friends again, and we'll see what happens after that." And, you know, there's also, I think, the teaser in this issue where you have Daredevil is going to be on the Avengers.
Yeah, like you're eventually getting the aspect of them finally putting him on the Avengers team, which is going to be weird. But you know, it's Bendis writing Daredevil again, which everyone wants to see again.
Absolutely. Speaking of Captain America, the final book of the week we have is the new series of Captain America #2.
Awesome.
By Ed Brubaker and Steve McNiven.
Before we even talk about Brubaker and this, I love looking at McNiven draw Captain America. This dude, you could tell, loves drawing Captain America. Yeah. He goes out of his world with drawing the scales on his armor. Yeah. He looks awesome.
He takes a lot of time to draw, and he draws like the perfect, you know, American Captain America. Rosy cheeks, blue eyes.
Yeah.
You know, he is like the star of the football team, Captain America, you know, the guy you look up to.
Plus, you got so much going on in this book. Like, you've got weird Golden Age stuff going on in the background. In World War II, you've got crazy things like Ameridroid. Like, who would have thought they'd bring back this a giant 50-foot-tall Captain America robot that looks exactly like Captain America? They do a really cool sequence with him, like walking through the snow. You think it's Captain America, then you find out it's a gigantic robot. And then you have Baron Zemo. You have this character, Jimmy Jupiter, who's kind of like the MacGuffin of the storyline. There's someone they're trying to actively seek out, who's a weird Golden Age character, only appeared for 2 issues. There's a lot like Little Nemo, about a kid who goes into like another reality, like a dream-like reality, and pull out stuff. So he's kind of like the ultimate weapon of what you'd want for technology, because it's kind of like he's pulling out things that don't even exist yet.
Right. He's kind of like, he's like a Franklin Richards that's been in a coma.
Exactly.
For 60 years.
It's like a Franklin Richards, like Little Nemo combination.
And it's such a departure from the regular Cap book, because the regular Cap book has been espionage for the past few years.
Yep.
You know, Captain America espionage, which is awesome because, you know, the guy's a soldier. But this is like wacky, off the wall kind of Silver Age and Golden Age stuff. And these kind of like, they're not super heady issues. Yeah. But, you know, it's a Captain America adventure that you can really get behind. You know, pick up Captain America 1 or 2. They're on the shelves. It's a great starting point.
It's so good
for the character. And it doesn't really like gel with the other stuff that's coming out right now, because it's a good standalone book. You know, if you want to read read Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should read all things from Brubaker.
Our next segment is going to be a new segment, real quick segment. It's called...
Yo, you didn't read that?
This week's Yo, you didn't read that? Was Marvel's Project, which actually redefines the golden age of the Marvel Universe. Kind of brings it a little bit to the forefront. If you're always wondering, you know, you had Timely Comics and, you know, the World War II era books. You had Captain America and World War II. And they had all these crazy looking characters back then that were kind of forgotten about, you know, until the 60s you had, you know, the mainstream Marvel Universe, the Silver Age Marvel Universe. Brubaker loves his Marvel history.
He loves, I mean, like, there's a great thing. Ed Brubaker is one of the architects of Marvel Universe right now. And what's a great thing is that he is one of the people that believe that there's no such thing as a bad story element. And re-examine the Gold Age, where you had all these weird, like, pulp era characters, where you'd have, like, you know, instead of having a beautiful symbol on your chest, you had a picture of a bullet or a cow, or like, it was just like really 2-dimensional, and making them believable, making them weird, and making them an interesting storyline. Right. And the Marvel's Project does that great. I mean, what he does is he basically starts from scratch, takes from the cowboy era to the pulp era to the Golden Age, and makes the coming of the superheroes. You get to see the rise of Captain America. Right. The Invaders. You have awesome, like, you know, great Namor and like the original Human Torch.
Yeah, Jim Hammond, always one of my favorite characters. In that Marvel Zero that came out years ago, where they had that one issue that Alex Ross did with him being in the tube and then being exposed to air.
Such a weird character.
You know? Yeah. And he showed up in the Captain America movie.
Yeah.
You know, he was in the tube. Marvel's Project also ties in, it doesn't, I shouldn't say tie in, it also alludes to the possibility of a new hero.
Yeah, it's a weird little cliffhanger they kind of leave you on with, like, when you're talking about the Angel. the Angel's son.
When he finds a gun
Awesome
and everything.
character. So like Brubaker pulls out this character, the Angel from the Golden Age, not the X-Men Angel, where it's like all you really know about this guy was that his father was a warden, and he was basically raised by the criminals in the jail, and they taught him like their trade. So he learned pickpocketing, he learned kung fu from this guy, he learned lying from this guy, he learned how to be a detective from this guy, and he's basically the narrator of the story. But the best part of it, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this also, is John Steele.
Yes.
John Steele is a character that Brubaker comes up with, which is still showing up today in Secret Avengers, also a Brubaker book, or was a Brubaker book. He's kind of like this internal warrior who's been fighting probably from Civil War. He was in World War I, and he's just this big invincible Superman.
Yeah.
Who is bulletproof. He doesn't age. He can beat the crap out of Captain America, but he's the source of all these, the super soldier
serums. Yeah.
You had all these German scientists, racing with the Americans to create some type of weapon for World War II, and you had John Steele, who was constantly being captured and recaptured by the Germans.
Yeah.
My favorite panel in that is he's found by Nick Fury and Red Hargrove, and he's like, they ask him like, who are you? And he goes, my name's John Steele. I kill Nazis. Who the hell are you? Yep. And it's such an awesome, straightforward, like, this dude is bad.
He's a gung-ho. He's one of the most gung-ho characters in the Marvel Universe.
This dude comes out of a tube from from Germany, and he's like, the first thing he does, like, he just kind of gets the lay of the land. He's like, I'm going to kill Nazis.
Yep, that's it.
I'm going to just bust up Nazi heads.
And this book has a lot of Nazi killing and a lot of Atlantean Nazis as well.
A lot
of really good Namor stuff, and I love Namor, man. Like,
he's so weird, man.
It's a weird character to like, and
the wings.
People always kind of throw Namor by the wayside, but he's the perfect villain and he's the perfect hero.
You have to talk about Human Torch and Namor. Those guys are like the grandpas of the Marvel Universe.
Absolutely.
You need to like constantly readdress and let people know that they are around. Like the fact we don't talk about Torch enough is sad. Yeah. Like he's an awesome character.
He really is an awesome character, and you have also they're the antithesis of each other. Not land,
water and fire.
And that's it. And it's a tremendous book. If you haven't,
these are all my notes. Did you read my notes before this?
I didn't read it. That's a lot of notes. It's a notebook.
I didn't even talk about that much.
It's all right.
It's all right.
But it brings us into our final segment, which is the creator of the week, which is Ed Brubaker.
Awesome.
Who, we've talked about him on the past couple episodes, and you can't really say enough good things about this guy. This guy can write anything you want. He did Batman for DC, like his earlier stuff, and he did Sleeper for Wildstorm. Sleeper was
great book.
Excellent book. And he did some Marvel work. And still doing his own creator-owned stuff through the Marvel Icon banner with Incognito and Criminal, which are two of my favorite books.
Kind of like the spiritual successors to Sleeper.
Right. Well, Incognito more so.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's basic. It feels like the same type of book, especially with Sean Phillips on the art as well.
Absolutely. Incognito is it's basically this guy named Zach Overkill who was depowered. He was a villain. He had a twin brother. He was depowered, and he's living his life as a schlub. He's like a clerk, and he wants that power back. He wants that villainous power back. But it turns out that his power's starting to come back. His powers do come back little by little, and he kind of decides to play for the other fence a little bit and play on the other side of the fence a little bit and start fighting crime. And he kind of gets a high from fighting crime, and then this organization contacts him and say, listen, we need you to infiltrate your old boss's organization, and we need you to tell us what's going on, and you're the only person that could do it because you're essentially invincible.
They go into like weird stuff with him where he's like, the reason there's him and his brother is that they're clones of like the original superhero in this universe.
Right.
It's a cool book, and it's a lot of like backstabbing and like. There's, it's an adult book too, so you get a lot of screwing and like, cursing and everything. It's a great book. Like Brubaker's always had an extreme love for crime and like
pulp
stuff. Like if you read Criminal, the dude does a great comic book story about whatever crime story he's doing at the time, and then he also has this supplement material in the back of like magazine stuff where like articles where he's writing about. He gets people to write about. Noir films that he has that they've enjoyed, or crime novels, and it's a great like it's the same thing with Daredevil. It's a great package. It's a great publication. It feels like you're reading like an old pulp magazine.
Right. It's one of those comics. Criminal is also one of those excellent comics that if you're not a comic fan and you like to read books,
yeah.
I never really got that. If you like to read a fiction book, pick up a comic book.
People like pictures.
People do like pictures, and people like words on the page. And this is Criminal is such a great book in that respect because these are. I would watch every single if these comics got made into films, I would watch every single one of them. And these are street level crime stories.
They're really, really like astonishingly well done, and like the fact that you can't even harken against this. Like the dude writes such great crime stuff, and then the guy's doing straight up like superhero stuff with Captain America,
crazy espionage stuff too.
And like the dude has been on Captain America forever now,
and
he's doing 2 Captain America books a month with Captain America and Bucky. And you have this dude did the unbelievable and brought back Bucky and made him completely likable. I mean, within one issue, he made us like Bucky.
He said, impossible.
Yeah, he said, hey, why was a 16-year-old kid with Captain America? It's like he's the guy who sneaks up, goes into behind enemy lines and slits a Nazi's throat.
Yep,
he was a bad dude.
Yeah. And it's really cool how they portray how he portrays Bucky like that badass kid, and on the posters it's Captain America and his wily sidekick Bucky, but the reality is that
he's got the flamethrower.
He's got the flamethrower. One of my favorite things that Brubaker's ever done was X-Men Deadly Genesis.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, and X-Men Deadly Genesis was if you were an X-Men fan and the Giant Size X-Men, which was a big milestone. In the X-Men franchise,
this is the beginning of like Wolverine and
Storm and Colossus, Nightcrawler,
the all different X-Men,
and they had to free the original X-Men from the island Krakatoa or whatever.
Krakatoa.
And this is kind of like the X-Men Deadly Genesis that Brubaker wrote was kind of like the little exclamation point to that story because you find out that Professor X kind of sent them in there. And you have
they sent in this other team,
right?
With Cyclops' long lost brother,
right?
And then the team failed,
right.
And then they have then they sent in the Wolverine team, and they erased everyone's brain that these people even existed,
right?
And you had awesome characters. You had Vulcan, who was Cyclops' brother, who was ridiculously powerful and eventually ruled over the Shi'ar Empire.
Yeah.
And you
also,
which was awesome, and he killed Black Bolt. And then you also had Darwin, who was in the X-Men movie.
Darwin, one of the best characters.
He's
of all time,
such an awesome character. A guy who can adapt to anything.
I saw the funniest thing online about Darwin. They were talking about it's a little racist, but it was funny.
I read this today.
You saw it?
Yeah.
He adapts to everything, but how could he not? Like, how is he not adapting to a white man in the 1940s in like a racist world? If he could adapt to everything, like why is he still a black man like dealing with racism in the 60s?
I think he's actually Latino.
No, he's a black guy. I thought it was funny. It was on Reddit.
He's half black, half smashed. He's like Miles Morales.
All right.
Yeah.
He's a Latino.
Another forgotten character.
It was on Reddit. I saw it on Reddit. It was hysterical.
But yeah, you also had the Death of Banshee.
You had the Death of Banshee, which no one cares about. I like the character a lot, but it was an awesome death. It was a beautiful book. And it was the first time, too, before we've done all this re-examination of X-Men, where you really started caring about X-Men again.
Yeah.
Like X-Men was really in a quagmire of like Chuck Austin stuff, and you had an awesome throwback X-Men storyline that got you excited about these characters again.
I always feel like that's my problem with a lot of the X-Men stuff is that it becomes very self-contained at one point, and you'll have a couple of books going on, but then it'll explode into 10 books. And it's fandom, man. People love the X-Men. If you can narrow it down to 4 books: X-Men, Uncanny, X-Factor, and the Uncanny X-Force, I'd be more than happy with that. That's 4 books that cover the entire universe.
I think the X-Men book with the vampires in it is a little bit too much. I think there's going to be a few books. The Generation Hope is a great book. There are cool X-Men things to look at, but I understand the stigma. There's I think you're always afraid of liking X-Men because you dip your toe into the water, you're getting an entire ocean of titles.
Yeah,
and there's so many dudes.
Yeah. There's so many people, and they're all in Utopia and everything. And for those that don't know, they have a sovereign island. The X-Men do, and Cyclops is the de facto leader, called Utopia. And this is basically, it's the mansion taken to the next level where, hey, if you're a mutant and you are in trouble, come and find us.
I think what's really cool about it is a lot of them get jobs in San Francisco. Like you had Avalanche running a bar.
Yeah.
A cool thing, we didn't even talk about it today, but I think one of the coolest things that happened to X-Men in a long time is the fact that this week, they made Colossus into the new Juggernaut.
Right. Yeah.
Which is awesome. And honestly, maybe it's a fanboy in me. I love the image of seeing armored up Colossus in the Juggernaut armor. It's like here's steel and here's a ridiculous domed helmet for you. He looks awesome.
More armor.
He looks great.
He does. And X-Men books, hopefully they will get better. I was
Thank Brubaker
saying-
for that.
Yeah, Brubaker, man, he's the man. Another touching on the X-Men thing, like I was telling you before, I think that where they're going with some more of this X-Men stuff is they're gonna do the Charles Magneto split with Wolverine and Cyclops.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. You're gonna see. I think you're gonna see some interesting things happen with. I agree with that completely. Where you're gonna see Cyclops become more of the militant, almost Magneto type character, where he is. We have to make us survive. We have to expand our race, and that's it.
Right.
Wolverine, I think, is a little bit more caring about people dying under his watch at this point because he's seen so much goddamn murder.
Which is a surprising swerve for his character, You're used to the badass Wolverine, and he's just the
Yeah.
most caring guy on the X-Men.
The dude's got like 12 daughters. He's got he had Kitty Pryde. He had X-23. He's had Jubilee.
Vampire
He
Jubilee.
hangs out with a lot of young girls, so he
does.
cares.
Yeah, he
He's
does.
an old dude, carries about a lot of young girls.
He carries that torch, man. One thing, I totally forgot what I was going to say. That's it. All right. I think that may do it for this week's show. We're on time, right? All right. Beautiful. One of our guests in the upcoming week is going to be Brandon Jerwa, who is behind a comic book documentary.
Oh.
And we took a look at some of the footage, and it looks fantastic.
Looks
It's
great.
essentially kind of a behind-the-curtain look at creators talking about their experiences in the comic book world, this medium that we love so much. I'd also like to thank Ben Templesmith, too, because I was on Twitter the other day at BTC Rich, and I follow him, and one of his tweets was, follow this documentary. So, thank you, Ben Templesmith. I really appreciate the tweet. Hopefully, we'll have an excellent interview with Mr. Jerwa coming up within the next 2 weeks, hopefully next week. And we are going to be doing a little bit of a Twitter contest this week, Twitter/email contest.
Either one.
Either one. I mean, you can email your entries to btcshow@gmail.com or at btcrich, which is the Twitter account. I always get uncomfortable saying at. There's people who don't know about Twitter. They're like, what is that? Oh, you can reach me at.
People are confused.
It does get confused. Hashtag, and I saw that thing.
That's
about
why
hashtag.
email is so easy.
Yeah, it's true. So best superhero or supervillain catchphrase, if you could send that out to us, we will judge the winner next week. You don't get anything.
You'll get something.
You'll get on
we'll,
the
we'll,
air.
we'll give him something.
Yeah?
I'll work on getting him something. I got a lot of stuff I can give away.
The behind the counter no prize.
Can you say what your saying
what
gonna
is
be?
yours?
My supervillain catchphrase would be "Stop the bus."
I love that so
and
much.
what's yours?
You bet your bippy.
And mine is 4x3.
In reference to
Not being in widescreen.
That's why I love.
You can only see like this. Everything else is gone.
I love stop the bus. Stop the bus.
It works. It works. You could say it in conversation.
Think of like clobbering time and think like stop the bus. It's like the same
It
thing.
is. Stop the bus. I gotta say something.
It's stop the bus.
Literally, and you always hate that dude on the bus too. Who's just like stop the bus. The guy who fell asleep. Like right before
You
Main
should
Street.
should carry like the bell strip for like the bus. Stop the bus.
That's it. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Behind the Counter, episode 2. I am Rich Stambolian.
I'm Jonathan Adler.
Thank you very much.